Additional attachments, number 1, first Hinterland Group bid response, and number 2, general conditions and forms. She indicated in the email that due to the size of the file that it was sent via WeTransfer, so if you want the file in its entirety, you would need to download it from WeTransfer.
Thank you. Any others? Thank you.
No, Madam Chair.
Any disclosures by Board of Directors? Thank you. We request a motion and a second to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, the motion to adopt the agenda has been made. As your name is called, please answer yes or no.
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes, that's a unanimous vote of 4-0. Thank you. Consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine, and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Would anyone wish to pull an item from the consent agenda?
No, Madam Chair, move to approve consent.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes. I'm assuming there were no public comment cards. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, members of the board, there are no public comment cards for the consent agenda.
Thank you. Just go on, hang a second. Okay, Madam Clerk, item number 2.
Resolution number 1-21UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving the piggyback contract with Grid One Electrical Construction, Inc. of South Bay, Florida, contract number 21506, electrical services contract on an as-needed basis for work throughout the Utility Special District, authorizing the Utility Special District Chairperson and District Clerk to execute this contract, and authorizing the Finance Director to make payment from project number 18160 in an amount not to exceed $50,000 and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, there are no public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any presentation?
Madam Chair, if I can have Interim Executive Director, Mr. Jonathan Batista, make the presentation.
For this resolution, the purpose is, as the EAC evaluation is underway for the lift stations, our operational staff have identified that it would be beneficial to have emergency on-call contractors available. It's similar to how we have an on-call contract with Johnson Davis in the event of an emergency. For this particular resolution, it deals with just electrical work, so let's say a control panel failed or something of that nature. And it's not to exceed $50,000, so it doesn't necessarily mean we'll spend all the money. It just means we have a budget available in the event that we need extra support.
Madam Clerk, please let it be known that Board Member Lanier has joined the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McCoy, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Batista, so who do we have on contract, or do we retain for electrical services in the event of an occurrence that comes up that this resolution would also speak to? Is there any other electrical contractors?
We currently don't have anyone on contract for electrical.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Is there any specifics that you can speak to as the type of electrical work that this was encompassed?
Sure. So it can it could deal with control panels, like for the lift station to control whether a pump goes on and off. It could deal with VFDs, which are variable frequency drives to control the speed of a pump, wiring, conduits, anything that might need electrical work.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Who's the piggyback? Who are we piggybacking on? Because I can't get my internet up.
This is from the city of West Palm Beach.
Okay. Why are we piggybacking and not doing something of our own? Because it seems like you're definitely closing out the opportunity for local contractors And if this is already something that can be authorized,
It's not,
if this is something that can already be authorized within, I guess, up to $25,000 threshold, why do we need to authorize something like this and you request proposals other than just joining a piggyback? Because I'm a little confused.
So in this case, it's to make sure we have the redundancy available in case of an emergency. In the case of our lift stations, several have been identified to be on bypass pumping, which means they're on their last legs. So the reason why we are going through this piggyback mechanism is to put something in place as fast as possible. So it's not to preclude that we can't do procurement in the future. It's just to make sure that we have what we need as fast as possible.
Okay, but the threshold already exists that you can go up to $25,000 if there was some expenditure that occurred or that came up because of some occurrence. Why wouldn't you go out and request some sort of proposals or request a RFP or a RFQ for electrical services? But I don't agree, and I'm not sure I exactly understand why you're suggesting that we're gonna just jump on Grid One because they're currently doing work at West Palm Beach, absent of us using some of the same local electrical contractors within the city of Riviera Beach.
Well, in the case of Grid 1, they have experience working with our Riviera Beach water treatment plant and other facilities. That's why we decided to use the piggyback contract with them. And if we had an emergency, we would prefer to have a contractor on call that already knew how to use our lift stations and equipment like that.
Well, if I may, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So that's exactly what I was trying to find out. Is there anything unique about the type of electrical work that they're doing that would give them some exclusive rights or exclusive knowledge on how to deal with this other than any other typical electrical firm?
So when it comes to our lift stations,
I reclaim my time, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I just want a simple question. Is there something unique about the system that you described before that cannot be accomplished by another electrical company? The answer would be yes or no.
no.
There's nothing exclusive. And for those reasons, I won't be supporting this. Members, I encourage you not to do it because I don't want to do it because Grid 1 does it. West Palm Beach has not sent us any money. And I don't know how long you've been here, Mr. Batista, but West Palm Beach generally doesn't get in the custom of sending contractors or work or any of that to the city of Riviera Beach residents or our contractors. But I'm not going to support something that any firm, any electrical firm can do. Your limit is 25, actually, you are the USD director, I'm sorry. Your limit without being asked to have some approval is $25,000. You're asking us to give you the authority to do $50,000 with Grid 1, and you already established nothing they're doing is exclusive. So that means the electrical work can be very well accomplished by another firm. Wouldn't you agree with that?
That is correct.
So it's just purely your preference.
It is, I believe, in the benefit of USD in the event of emergency to have someone available as soon as possible.
But I've already asked you if this was something that was exclusive, so it could be for the ultimate benefit of USD, but it doesn't mean that Grid 1 is solely the only firm that can do this. Would you agree with that assessment?
I agree with the assessment to the extent that you're correct that there's other firms that can do this work, but in terms of time, I think it's best to move forward with a firm that is already familiar with our aged and dilapidated system and could mobilize quickly.
Do we have some current repairs that need immediate addressing? The answer would be yes or no.
So the answer is yes.
Okay. All right. So under the authority of the utility special district, you have an authority to procure and purchase up to $25,000 without it being an action item or a resolution item from the board. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not going to support it for those exact reasons because I do not want to prematurely disqualify other firms. Even though this is up to $50,000, I certainly respect that there are some urgent needs, but I would ask that if we haven't already, and do you know, have we already started using Grid 1?
We've used them in the past, but we haven't started using them now.
Okay, so have we exceeded the 25,000 threshold?
No.
Okay, well, I would then say then the most that I would be okay with is supporting them up to $25,000, and that we can amend to this item right here, but anything beyond that needs to go out for some sort of competitive solicitation. And I yield back, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
You're recognized, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you. Councilman McCoy, I echo those same sentiments in regards to this item. My concern is that we're disqualifying all the local participation that has the ability, and with piggybacking off an item that's not an emergency item. It's being proactive, which I appreciate the ability to be proactive, but as Councilman McCoy stated, that you do have a limit of up to 25,000. So being proactive with putting this RFP out so that we can possibly have some local participation involved would actually be my approach, and using the limit that your actual office has up to 25,000 would then be recommended. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Manager. Mr.
Madam Chair, if the board would be so inclined to consider the limited authorization up to $50,000 until we complete a solicitation, in the event that we have a failure that exceeds that 25,000, then we can go and procure services associated with that. But if there's a consideration for limited authorization to exceed that, then we can commence the solicitation process that would be able to provide the service, because as Mr. Batista said, everything at the utility district has age to it, and then it could be at a state where it can fail at a moment's notice. And so we do have the authorization, obviously, if it exceeds 25,000, to get the repairs done and then come back to the board. But if the board would be so inclined to consider a limited authorization up to $50,000 for the purposes exclusively for what is contained in this item, then staff can have that authorization in our pocket until the competitive solicitation process is completed and ratified by the board.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, did you have anything, Councilwoman Lanier? Go ahead, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Mr. Evans, I believe that the exact purpose of the emergency meeting that the board would have to call in the event there's a danger to our residents or our community could be called, as opposed to increasing the limit. I would say keep the limit at the amount it is, and if there is any emergency that occurs, we can call an emergency meeting to actually pass or to increase that. But as of right now, I'd prefer that we kept the limit at the amount that is in the charter now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. McCoy, excuse me. Ms. Miller Anderson, you're recognized, and then Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do understand where Mr. McCoy and Mr. Lawson are coming from, and it makes a lot of sense. However, I really don't believe calling a special meeting if an emergency occurs is actually probably realistic. My question is, Mr. Evans, if we basically do, how long would it take for us to be able to put out the RFP and then possibly get someone to do the job? Because if we're going to have them on for, are we saying maybe 3 or 4 months, and then it will come back to us for us to decide on the permanent person?
Madam Chair, if I may, I believe that a competitive solicitation process of this sort should probably take about 60 days to have it come before the board, 30 days for the solicitation, and at least 15 days for staff to prepare the document and then to vet those entities that would submit for a solicitation. So probably 60 days we can have something before the board, 75 at the most, for consideration with regards to the services that are being discussed this evening.
Okay, so an option could be to provide them with maybe like a month, with a couple months of a contract, and that allows us time to be able to put out our RFP and get it back to the board. This way, we're not necessarily increasing our emergency limit, and then at the same time, we would not have to try to call a special meeting because that may or may not work. And then we would also be avoiding having to ratify something that already had to take place. And, we run the risk of people not really being satisfied with what happened and being forced and put in a position to have to approve something after it's already taken place.
Thank you. Mr.
So-
McCoy, you're recognized. I'm sorry, you finished?
No, I was going to
Sorry.
say, my suggestion is if that is feasible for us to do like maybe a 3-month contract, if they would be interested in that, being able to do that something short term so that we're able to work on our own RFP. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Mr. McCoy's first, and then.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you, Madam
McCoy.
Chair. Mr. Batista, or perhaps maybe even Ms. Jacobs, is there anybody that we've ever used in the past for continuing services related to electrical work for the utility special district?
We've used Grid One in the past. We've used other electrical contractors, but the names don't come to mind.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Was it for continuing services, like an ongoing contract?
Not that I'm aware of.
So the answer would be no. So we just pick up the phone and call someone up, so long as we have in our mind that the services are not going to exceed $25,000. And if in that event, that's when the item is brought before to the utility special district board.
Could you repeat the question? I didn't understand it.
So in the past, when we've acquired electrical services to deal with some electrical matter at the utility special district, do we go and call Grid One until their services exceed or close to exceed 25,000, and then we bring them an item before the board?
I would assume that's how it worked historically.
Aside from any assumptions, would anybody know for certain? Because I'm gonna know how we procure electrical services, and then on top of that, do we have an a procurement person for utility special district?
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, we do have staff that serves in a support capacity as it relates to electrical. I think that this may be something a little bit more complex and needs additional persons. With respect to the type of electrical services that are
Follow up, reclaim my time. I'm asking
I'm
for
sorry.
procurement.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Mr. McCoy, could I hear the rest of
Well,
Mr.?
no, you can't, because I
Well-
asked a very direct question. Do we have someone in procurement?
Mr. McCoy, I really would
No,
like to hear.
Madam Chair, I reclaim my time. I asked the question, do we have someone in procurement for the utility special district? He's speaking of something else. I'm only speaking of, do we have a procurement person? I don't want to know if somebody else is doubling in that role. The answer would be yes or no.
Madam Chair, if I may, with regards to electrical services, that is something.
I'm asking for procurement.
Mr. McCoy, could you please let him finish?
It's a simple question. Do we have an employee filling the FTE for procurement, Madam Chair? Do you not understand that?
I understand.
It's yes or no. I don't care about electrical, because this item should not be before us if we had a procurement person. So please allow me the latitude to ask the question. And I don't want to hear all of that other nonsense, because it has nothing to do with where I'm going. So if he can answer the question, I appreciate it. Otherwise, I'm not interested in electrical. I'm asking for a procurement person.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, there's not a person that is assigned to procure specific electrical services for the USD.
Thank you. I yield back.
Ms. Lanier?
Madam Chair, I agree with Councilwoman Kashama Miller Anderson in regards to having a 3-month for this item. We come back, if there's an emergency within the 3 months, it gives them an opportunity to put it out to bid. It gives them the opportunity to work on the RFP, and I agree with the item as written, and I'd like to call the question, please.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Miller Anderson? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I do want clarity though, for if, in regards to being able to get this RFP out, and if the 3-month, would that be feasible in order to do it for the 3 months? And this allowed them the time to be able to do that. And understand we don't have a person assigned to the utility district for procurement, but we do have a procurement department that has typically served in getting these things done. So we're not saying it can't be done, are we? Because I didn't quite, I mean, what was your point, Mr. McCoy? You were trying to say, were you saying because that's why it shouldn't have come to us that way?
Correct, Board Member Miller Anderson, because it's not proper in its current form. And to suggest that we're going to simply do a piggyback doesn't make sense when we should be going out, because Mr. Batista represented and submitted to us that they need this. If they need it, we shouldn't be doing a piggyback. We need to go out and then solicit this to the general public, because we have a number of general contractors, and contractors are specifically qualified to do this service. If we essentially, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if we could do a 3-month contract, basically is what I'm looking at, trying to modify as it's written, to do a 3-month contract, not to exceed 50. I would hope that we don't go that far in 3 months. But if it, just keep us abreast of what it is that is happening over there before we get to the 25,000.
Okay.
Mr. Evans or Ms. Evans, did you hear me on that?
Mr. Evans?
We can certainly be able to bring an item before the board that accomplishes what councilperson or board member Miller Anderson stated.
Would the maker of the motion care to amend the motion to include what board member Miller Anderson just stated? Who was the maker of the motion?
I was, but if that's the case, Madam Chair, then we wouldn't need this resolution item, because that's something that could be encompassed within the utility special district. And, you know, I don't know why my comments seem to be taken out of context, but I asked very simple comments. I'm not interested in all the rhetoric and all of this beautification stuff about the electrician. Do we have a procurement director? Simply as that. If what Ms. Miller Anderson is suggesting, then we can just then dispose of this item off of the agenda, because that authority is already vested with the utility special district director, up to $25,000 without having us to vote on it. And again, if it's a little frustrating, Madam Chair, and extend me the latitude. If I ask a question and if the person that's the respondent goes off track, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on something, and then when they get done, I completely have lost what even they said that's even relevant to the question that I asked. And I only wanted to know if we had a procurement director in place.
And thank you, Mr. McCoy, and please extend the speaker the courtesy of allowing him to finish.
I'm not, because my time here is limited.
Okay.
And if it's not relevant, then that is a point of clarification that I'm not interested in that, or perhaps he didn't understand the question.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Mr. Evans, is it, I think we might be in agreement that we should dispose of this item and proceed with putting out an RFP to get somebody local?
Madam Chair,
yes.
no, the item is on the table. We need to take a vote on it. I don't think we should dispose of it. It's on the agenda. The utilities department director and manager who work in these departments, not that they're the experts, but these people do this work every single day. And I understand Mr. McCoy's position. We said that we would take this item and we would do 3 months and come back and they would put it out for an RFP. But in the meantime, in the 90 days, if there's an emergency that occurs, we don't have to have an emergency meeting to be able to authorize that. That's the point. So you get what you want. It comes back to the Utility District Commission. We make a decision about putting it out, but in the meantime, we have an opportunity for them to do that work so that if an emergency occurs, we don't have to come back to do that. So yes, I want to keep it on the item and we can take a vote on it.
Madam Chair,
Anything, Mr. McCoy, you're recognized.
what she suggested is not accurate. Emergency items wouldn't come back to us anyways. So let's just go ahead and get that straight forward. This is utility special district. There are provisions within the charter, which I have a copy of, and I'll be happy to pass it down there, that emergency items wouldn't normally come back. I'm speaking of regular items that are presented in this according to what was established in the resolution and the resolution backup. But emergency items wouldn't come back to us. I'm suggesting that if the authority already exists with the utility special district director up to $25,000, what exactly are we approving? And that question is for Board Member Lanier.
We are approving the item as written. I've had a agenda review with the Utilities Department over all of these items. I'm very aware of what is on the agenda. I want to call the question so that we can vote on this item.
Anything else, Mr. McCoy?
No, thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Board Member McCoy,
No.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
No.
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
No.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That
Madam
motion-
Chair?
Excuse me, Mr. McCoy, one moment. That motion has been defeated by a vote of 3-2. Mr. McCoy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I move to direct our Utilities Special District Director, and at this point, whoever he uses that delegates or doubles in that role of procurement, to put out a request for proposal for continuing electrical services.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? I think we've had our discussion. Madam Clerk?
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes, that motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chair,
Staff is, one second, staff is directed to put out the RFP. Mr. McCoy, you recognized.
just one question. Mr. Batista, are you able to move forward with any electrical repairs, aside from emergency that comes up on a day-to-day, addressing under your current authority for purchasing and procurement, up to $25,000?
Yes.
Okay. And in the event of emergency, are you familiar with the process in order to procure services above that of your authority?
Yes.
Thank you. I yield.
Madam Chair, we have a motion that has been voted and seconded on, and while we still having discussions about the same item that we just voted on.
Well, I think Mr. McCoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, number 3, please.
Resolution number 02-21UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving contract with the Hinterland Group of Riviera Beach, Florida, cooperative contract number 20-009R with Palm Beach County to perform lift station rehabilitation, continuing construction, authorizing the Utility Special District Board Chairperson and District Clerk to execute this contract, and authorizing the District Finance Director to make subsequent payments after work authorizations have been issued and provide an effective date. Madam Chair and members of the Board, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Evans, do we have a presentation?
Madam Chair, if I can have Interim Director, Mr. Jonathan Batista, make the presentation.
Sure. With this piggyback contract, first may I point out that Hinterland Group is a local firm located just down the street on Blue Heron Boulevard. They are selected for this work since they are reputable when it comes to lift station rehabilitation. When it comes to EAC doing the evaluations of the lift stations, they're first focusing on the most critical. Following that evaluation, I would like to begin work immediately on addressing the most pressing needs of our lift stations, especially those on bypass pumping. Going forward, we're not entirely sure the level of work that will be required in lift stations. All we know as of right now is that some are in poor repair and will require extensive investment. And so therefore, we want to use this piggyback continuing contract to be able to mobilize quickly the moment we have the information at hand to begin that work.
Thank you. Questions? Okay. It has been moved and seconded that Utility District Board approve the associated resolution so that the district has a mechanism in place to construct or rehabilitate lift stations. If you're in favor, vote yes. If not, vote no. Madam Clerk?
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes, that motion is approved with a vote of 5-0. Item number 4.
Resolution number 3-21UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach, Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving a proposal by Holtz Consulting Engineers for the update of the Riviera Beach Utility Special District's Cross-Connection Control Program, authorizing the District Finance Director to make payments from project number 18152 in an amount not to exceed $67,340 and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, if I can have Jonathan Batista make the presentation.
Thank you.
For this item, it deals with the cross-connection control program of the Utility Special District. It's been identified that our program is currently outdated and we need to revise it to ensure that we have an updated ordinance and procedures in place so that our customers have a clear program in front of them and to increase compliance when it comes to what the Department of Environmental Protection requires.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. I do have a question.
You're recognized, Mr. McCoy.
So, Mr. Batista, I asked back in November for the policy on the backflow. Is this as a result of my request?
No.
Okay. This specifically speaks to that. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so are we revisiting this policy at this time because of what reason?
The reason is due to, well, to multiple reasons. One is the ordinance is outdated. We need to update it to reflect current standards. The second, more pressing reason is we want to make sure that we have compliance throughout the city. Right now, we're working towards increasing it, but we want to seek consultant support and making sure we get it up as high as possible.
And I want to make sure I'm understanding. You're saying ordinances. We don't pass ordinances at the Utility Special District. Are you referring to resolutions?
I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question since originally there's a cross-connection control ordinance. I believe that's what has to be updated to reflect how we enforce the cross-connection program.
Okay, well, I didn't see that in the backup. I see something what appears to be a resolution. So I guess I'm not understanding what ordinance means. District Attorney, are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
Mr. Evans?
Is it perhaps something you're using in a synonymous fashion? That this is really a resolution?
The resolution says an update to the cross-connection control program. I'm assuming that the program is a policy?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I guess one of the things I was concerned with is this that archaic that this would have existed before 2004 when there were in fact were the USD was under the city and this was ordinance. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't misunderstanding something. So that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anything else? It has been moved and seconded that the Utility District Board approve the associated resolution so that the district can receive consultant support to comply with regulatory requirements. Madam Clerk, if you are in favor, vote yes. If opposed, vote no. Madam Clerk.
Board Member Lanier,
Yes.
Board Member McCoy,
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Pro Tem Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes, thank you. That motion is approved by a vote of 5-0. Do we have any public comments, Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we do not have any public comment cards for this particular section of the agenda. The acceptance of public comment cards for regular comments is now closed.
Thank you. Do we have a discussion by the Executive Director of the Utility Special District or the City Manager?
Madam Chair, just for clarity's sake, we have utilized local contractors for electrical services in the past. We haven't used one exclusive provider.
Thank you. Discussion by the District Attorney?
Yes, Madam Chair. I have an announcement of a closed executive session. Pursuant to Florida Statute Section 286.0118D, public meetings and records, and in a desire to obtain advice concerning litigation, I am requesting a time that the City Council, that the District Board is available for a closed executive session in the matter of Trodrick McCoy versus City of Riviera Beach Utilities Special District, case number 50-20-CA-011-228-XXXX-MB. There are 2 city council meetings scheduled for February 2021, and I'd like to ask the board if you're available on either Wednesday, February 3rd at 5:30 p.m. or Wednesday, February 17th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. What is your pleasure?
The 17th is better for me.
Either is okay with me. Mr. Lawson?
Either one, Madam Chair.
Mr. McCoy?
1 second.
Either one is fine for me.
Madam District Attorney, did you announce the location?
I'm not done yet.
Oh, okay.
If I
Well,
give the dates, then I'll continue with the announcement.
but if we're gonna be here on USD matters, it would seem the 17th, since we're already scheduled at a USD meeting on that day, to be here in the meeting, so I would support the 17th.
So therefore, thank you for that. A closed executive session will be held on February 17th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at City of Riviera Beach Marina Event Center, 190 East 13th Street, Riviera Beach, Florida, 33404. In the case of Trodrick McCoy versus City of Riviera Beach Utility District, case number 50-20-CA-011-228-XXXX-MB. Those persons in attendance will be USD Attorney Dawn Nguyen, USD Assistant Attorney Lina Busby, outside counsel Gwendolyn Key Tuggle with the law firm of Slusher and Rosenblum, Mayor Felder, members of the District Board, Interim District Director Jonathan Batista. The subject
Madam
matter of
Chair.
the closed executive session shall be restricted to settlement negotiations and/or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures.
Ms. Miller Anderson, you're recognized.
2 questions. The meeting time. So the utility, we're doing the executive session, and then the board meeting will just be immediately after.
That's
And then
correct.
then our city council will be immediately after. What are the exact times? 5:30, then 6, and then possibly 6:30, or
We can.
how are we advertising it?
Yes, the executive session will be advertised for 5:30. The regular UD meeting will be advertised for, it can still be 5:30 or as soon thereafter, after the closed executive session, with the city council meeting following at 6 o'clock or soon thereafter. That's how we normally do it. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? Thank you.
Well, I mean, we typically don't, well, we have not had a closed executive before our utility district meeting in a while. So I know in the past we've started it at 5, but I'm sure that, is probably an issue because of work schedules. But when we do one of either the utility district meeting agenda or our city agenda, I hope we keep in mind that that executive session may take a little while, our UD meeting may take a little while, and then we'll be there, late at night. So hopefully the agenda won't be as packed. And then my second point is, with this being between the utility district and Mr. McCoy, is Mr. McCoy present in the closed executive session?
It's totally up to Mr. McCoy. He is a member of the board. He, as you stated, he's also the plaintiff in this matter. He cannot be precluded from this meeting, but it's up to him.
Okay. Thank you.
Recognized.
Board Member Miller Anderson, would you prefer that I don't attend?
I asked the question, Mr. McCoy.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Thank you. Ms. Lanier?
I also had the same question. I was just wanting to know what the legal precedence was for a person who is suing us is also in the meeting that we're discussing the suit that he has against us, which means he can talk in both. I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, we researched the matter. The issue will be for Mr. McCoy when it comes time to settle this matter and vote on this matter at a regular UD meeting. He'll have to determine whether or not he has a conflict or not.
Madam Chair.
You're recognized.
I'm not finished, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So you can provide the board with language to make me feel comfortable with this. I need to have some legal precedent of how a person who is suing us is also going to be in the negotiations of that suit against us.
I'll provide that to you.
And if you can send the board the legal precedents for that, then I'll feel more comfortable with this. But it just doesn't make any sense to me to have someone who is suing me in the meeting with me discussing the suit against me.
I understand. I'll provide that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was looking for Ms. Busby, but I imagine that our district attorney can answer or even provide something in the spirit of settlement. Is why I offered that we move to a closed session, Board Member Lanier. But if you don't think that I should be there, then I won't. And then we'll just have to continue to litigate and then pay an outside attorney to litigate. But I, in my opinion, think that this is an issue, like I said very initially from the onset, that can be resolved. So aside from that, I think I would encourage all the members, if there is some hesitation about my participation, you can always meet with the district attorney, Ms. Nguyen, and get an update. But that was the entire purpose. That way I wasn't having a unilateral conversation with the district attorney, and that we all as a body can establish what needs to go. But if you think that this is something that you don't want on the record, or you think you need to come up with a strategy against me, if you tell me now today, I will not come. And then we'll litigate it, and we'll go from there. But that is a direct question, and I'm expecting a response. But in light of the questions that was asked by Board Member Lanier and also Board Member Miller Anderson, I would think that there is some concerns about my attendance. So if you don't think that it's appropriate or you don't want to be involved, then I welcome that as well. And, you know, we'll just proceed with the litigation.
Madam Chair?
You're recognized, Ms. Miller Anderson.
Well, Mr. McCoy, as you could probably understand, this is probably something new to all of us in the manner in which we're doing this. We don't typically have the person who is suing the city sitting in our closed executive meeting. So I think the question was posed because it was unfamiliar to us. I asked our legal advisor on the position. She provided her answer, and I was fine with that. So that's where I am with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCoy, you recognize.
Clarification,
Madam
Board,
Chair,
Let him go now. Go ahead.
clarification, Board Member Miller Anderson, this is not a suit against the city. This is an action against the Utility Special District. There is a special and a very important distinct difference between the two. And I was really more or less referring to, after the district attorney gave her establishment, that there is no precedent because I'm still a vested member, and you can't prohibit me as a duly qualified member of the USD to participate in the meeting. But if you insist on having her to go ahead and do something written in that nature or provide you some assurances or safety, then by all means.
Madam
Okay, you did hear when I spoke with her and asked the question. She
Yes.
provided me her response, and I was finished with it. So for me, I am done with it based on what she told me. Thank you.
Board Member Lanier.
No, I still want to have the information, the legal ramifications from our attorney in regards to this. And if you ask me my preference, no, I would not want you to be in a meeting, Mr. McCoy, that you are suing the utility district. We sit as the board of the utility district, which means you're suing us. And I've never had a situation where the person who is being sued is sitting in the room discussing the suit, unless it is a settlement. You're talking about, you had the discussion, amongst yourselves, and you've come to an agreement that we're going to settle, and then we go back to the person and say, this is what we've come up with. But to have those negotiations, those settlement negotiations, basically aired out with the person who's actually suing us, it just doesn't sit right with me, and I would like to have a legal ruling in regards to that, because I just don't think that it just doesn't sit right with me in terms of a person suing me and they're sitting in and privy to the information that we're discussing about the actual suit.
Anything else? Thank you. Discussion by board members, starting with Mr. McCoy.
Thank you. Thank you. I do have discussion. So I have questions for our district attorney. I have the district charter here, and since I guess those items came up, let me go ahead and jump to section 5 of it, and maybe you can opine, and that will clear any concerns relative to the action against USD. Madam District Attorney, Section 5, Delegation of Duty. That's in Article 5 of Utility Special District. If I can just read this. Delegation of duty. Nothing contained herein shall deem to authorize the unauthorized delegation of any of the constitutional or statutory duties of the state or the city or any officers thereof. Madam District Attorney, as a utility district board member, that section does refer to officers as officers of the Utility Special District Board, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I don't have to give up the delegation of any of my authority to anyone, correct?
That's correct.
And I guess the same can be applied in this situation where there's a suggestion that they're uncomfortable with my presence at a meeting of the settlement. This is the very purpose of us doing that, but that in itself should satisfy the explanation, would it not, Ms. Nguyen?
I can't speak to what satisfies a particular board member.
Okay, but that does give me the authority that's vested with me as a utility special district to participate and do all of the functions that's outlined in this charter, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. District Attorney, my next question is, we do have a utility district policy, and I want to direct our utility district director that we need to put our policy relative to the utility district online because it's nowhere online. And specifically, I dealt with inquiry from a customer regarding a utility bill, and that information is not readily available on how a customer would go and appeal if they had a question regarding billing and that sort of thing. So between the attorney, can we make sure that that's online? The attorney and the utility district director, because clearly there was a situation that came up with a very significant billing dispute that, because perhaps I think we just relaunched our website, that's not readily available, and if so.
The billing policy, sir?
Correct. I think we were copied on the email relative to it. And then not only that, the district charter provides for the board of directors, which is also us as members of USD, and a finance director, and a district attorney. Ms. Nguyen, can you tell us who the district attorney reports to?
The district board.
Okay. And you take authority and direction from the district board, Madam Attorney?
Yes.
The district finance director reports to who in this case?
The district finance.
Page 6.
Of the charter?
Yes.
The district finance director is on loan from the city to the utility district.
But in the charter, he is an officer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So would you believe, and it's a safe assumption, that the utility district finance director reports directly to the board?
Okay, so we also have not just the charter, but there's a service agreement.
Mm-hmm.
The charter says that the charter sets out the employees of the district, and then the
Officers of the district.
The officers of the district,
Mhm.
and some of them are employees of the city. And then the service agreement also references some of those positions. There's some confusion between the service agreement and the charter, to the point that there was some clarification in a 2019 resolution that talked about who the utility district director reports to. Upon looking into another issue as it relates to this, we discovered that resolution wasn't proper. We should have amended the service agreement to further clarify the role of the utility district director and perhaps even some of the other positions. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It does, and I have a follow-up, and this will be my last question. So even with the utility services agreement, that is an agreement which is no different than something that's authorized by resolution. Would that be correct? To create a utility services agreement?
It's a contract between the city and the special district.
And us as board members, we would authorize that agreement by resolution?
I'm assuming that you did. This was in 2004.
Okay, so if the charter is the superior document and it says that nothing herein can then delegate the authority of a utility district officer, then would there be any assumption that I lose that authority because of the utility services agreement?
There's also a section in the charter that allows the utility district board to enter into contracts.
Correct. But that contract wouldn't preempt me as a board member from exercising the duties and the constitutional and statutory duties of the city or the state or any officers thereof.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. And I actually, that's not all I have. I said that to make sure that I put on record that there's a suggestion that Mr. Randy Sherman, the finance director, and I would love for you to share otherwise and put something in writing, but the finance director, the billing director, anybody that touches utilities report directly to this board. Because if we have a billing dispute and our policies, our charter, our utility services agreement delegates that authority, that is not removed as it relates to the utility special district. Any suggestion otherwise, I welcome the challenge. So I did direct, because there was a significant billing error that utility billing staff did not adhere to the clear and plain language of one of the policies, that I said that this account needs to be adjusted and it needs to be cleared out by the close of business the next day. So there was a suggestion that we don't give free water. We're the body that establishes the charter. We establish the utility services agreement. I'm not here to give free water, but if someone calls in and says, I want my water turned off, and an employee fails to do that, and instead turns the water back on for somebody that's not the account holder, they should not be responsible. So if there's a suggestion, you can go ahead and file a complaint with whomever you want. I'm ready to defend my position. But that's not right that we will sit here and disregard the very plain language of our own policy and then tell the customer that there's no free water and that they're required to pay for it. That's not right under any mechanism, whether it be under the city's auspices or under the utility special district. I'll give you another one. Even under fair debt collection practices, if you can't validate that this person actually owes this debt, we should not be collecting it, nor should we be billing them for it. And for those reasons, I don't agree with the suggestion or the email that I got back, and I thought it was more important to put it on record so that the members know anything relative to billing is a function of the Utility Special District Board unless the charter is otherwise amended. But simply doing what we say in our policy should be something that everybody wants to happen. That's the rules of engagement, and we shouldn't create some innocuous interpretation to benefit us when it's convenient. That's all I have, Madam Chair, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller-Anderson? Any comments?
Madam Chair, yes, I'm not sure we'll get the comments tonight, so I just wanted to mention about the Citizens Leadership Academy deadline coming up on January 31st, and people can go to the city's website, I believe. There's quite a few people that are registering, and they still have only a few more slots left open. January 31st is the deadline. You could go onto the city's website to register or call 561-812-6597. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Lanier?
Yes, I just wanted to say that neither one of us, Mr. McCoy, have a bar card, meaning that we're not attorneys, we're not lawyers. And I'm waiting to hear from the attorney about the status of the request for you, or not even your request, but for you to show up at this meeting. I would like an opinion, a legal opinion on that. Second of all, I appreciate, understand, recognize the professionalism, the expertise of the people who work for the City of Riviera Beach. From the city administration, utilities department, the law department, procurement, the library, all of the departments, these individuals are professionals. This is their expertise. We're here to ask questions when they bring them forward to us, but we have to trust their judgment in terms of that is the reason why they have the job. That is the reason why they went to school for that particular subject matter. Our job is to ask the questions in a professional manner. It is to ask the questions so that we can be able to move forward with the correct information. It is not our job to badger them. It is not our job to talk down to them. It is not our job to sit and judge them. It is our job to make sure that the people who the city is paying good money in their expertise, in their area, to be able to do their job without fear of being badgered and fear of being talked to as if they're not a human being. And I want to encourage all of my colleagues to speak to the people who work with us, not for us, who work with us to keep this city running. From the CRA to the city administration to all of the departments, these people are professionals, and they should be treated as such. They are the experts. They are the ones who've gone to school, and they are the ones who know what this subject matter is. And there is nothing wrong with asking questions. That is what we're here for. We're not here to just sit here and just idly just wait until someone brings us an item and we say, okay. It is our job to ask questions, but it is the way in which we ask those questions. And I encourage all of my colleagues to ensure that that is how we treat people and the professionals here in the city of Riviera Beach.
Thank you. I have no comments. It is 6:39. I suggest we resume at 6:50. Let's take a 10-minute break. When we resume, we do not have to have the pledge again, I think. Am I right, Madam Attorney? Or the moment of silence or anything. So we'll start again at 6:50.
Madam Chair?
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Madam Chair, if we can start at 7, and the police chief would like to meet with each of the council persons individually in the back area for a briefing.
Certainly. This meeting is adjourned. We'll resume at 7.